Alright, what we're going to do is we're going to go over how to solve a two-step equation. And this was the only image that I could find of a two-step equation. Would be a dog going up 2 steps. So that's a good relation there. If we look at a two-step equation, first of all, an equation is anything that has a left-hand side and a right-hand side with an equal sign in between. Those are our rules of what constitutes as an equation. To solve an equation, we've got to understand that we have constants and we also have variables and we also have numbers that we are multiplying those variables called coefficients. So those are kind of our 3 different pieces. Those should be pretty simple. When we're solving an equation, we want to find the number that we can plug into that variable that will make the equation true. We want to create a mathematically true statement. To do that, we have to solve for our variable. We have to get our variable alone. First thing we want to do is completely isolate our variable. If we look at the right-hand side, we can see we've got 16 plus 15x. The way I like to think about it is you want to get rid of the last thing that you are doing to your variable. This variable, we are going to multiply it by 15, and then we are going to go ahead and add 16 to that, which means the last thing we would do would be add 16. So the first thing I want to get rid of when I am undoing this problem would be the 16. The way to get rid of a positive 16 would be to subtract 16. You can see those two are going to cancel out and give me a 0. On the right hand side I will be left with a 15x. Now this is an equation, this is mathematics, so we can't just throw numbers around. We have to be able to justify every step we take. If we are going to subtract 16 from one side of that equation and both sides of those equations are equal, I've got to do that same exact thing to the left hand side of the equation. So I am going to subtract 16 from 30. Which is going to go ahead and give me 14. So right now I've got 14 is equal to 15 times x times my variable. Now you're looking at this and you're saying, well, I don't really know a number off the top of my head that I can multiply 15 by to get 14. I agree. So let's finish this out. We are multiplying 15 by x. We want to get x alone. The only way that we have to undo multiplication would be division. So to get rid of my times 15, I'm going to divide this right hand side by 15. Again, whatever I do on the right hand side, I've got to do on the left hand side. We can see here these 15s are going to cancel out to be 1, which leaves me with x. On the left hand side, I will be left with 14 fifteenths. So my answer to this equation would be 14 fifteenths. If I would plug 14 fifteenths back into this equation for x, I would get 14 plus 16 equals 30. I will get a statement that reads 30 is equal to 30, which in fact is a true statement. So as long as we've got a true statement, that means we have solved completely for that variable. We have found what that variable is going to be. This one will be a little bit easier. We don't have any fractions. But we've got 3x minus 1 on the left side, 8 on the right hand side. We want to solve for x. We want to isolate x. We are multiplying x times 3, and then we are subtracting 1. First thing I want to get rid of is that minus 1. Best way I know of to get rid of a minus 1, add 1. So those two are going to cancel out. Whatever I do on the left hand side, I've got to do on the right hand side. So I've added 1 to both sides of that equation. I still have the same problem. I'll bring down my 3x since I didn't change that. 8 plus 1 is 9. So now I've got the equation 3x equals 9. To solve for x, I've got to get rid of that times 3. To get rid of a multiply by 3, I'm going to simply divide by 3. These will cancel out and I'm left with x. 9 divided by 3 gives me 3. Again, if I come back up here and I plug it into this equation, it'll give me 3 times x, which we just found is 3, minus 1 equals 8. I'll get 9 minus 1 equals 8. 8 equals 8. Got a true statement, therefore I have found a solution. Now this last one's going to look a little bit different, but it's really not that bad. So what we have here is we have x over 2 minus 7 equals 4. Remember, this fraction bar is a division sign. All that is a big division sign. So I've really got x divided by 2 minus 7 equals 4. The last thing I said I did to the x would be to subtract 7, which means I've got to go ahead and get rid of that first. To get rid of that minus 7, I'm going to add 7 to both sides. These are going to cancel out. I'll have an 11 over here. Over here I've got x divided by 2. Now I've got to get rid of that divided by 2 to get x alone. To get rid of the divided by 2, I'm going to multiply by 2. So now I have 2 times x divided by 2 equals 11. I can see this 2 times x and this divided by 2. These 2's are going to cancel out and give me a 1, so I just have x. Now remember, whatever I did on this left-hand side, I've got to do to the right-hand side. So x is going to be equal to 22. I can plug that back in. I would have 22 over 2 minus 7 equals 4. I will have 11 minus 7 equals 4, which leaves me with 4 equals 4. I've got a true statement.